Jesus is Lord. And he was such a nice Jewish boy. Jesus changed my life, and he's still in the life-changing business.
As Paul said, the love of Christ compels.
You know, Randy, I think most people don't realize how much darkness there is in the world.
It can't be just coming to church and getting pumped up with you and I are all going to have something of faith in us by which we stand.
Jesus died to save sinners, and you are a sinner.
Welcome to CrossTalk. My name is Randy Weiss. I want to say shalom. I'm so delighted that you're here with us. And as you know, I'm a Jewish believer in a Jewish Messiah. I love Israel, I love the Jewish people, and I want to make sure that there's a right understanding, a right, correct perspective about this wonderful land of Israel where so many things are happening that affect the world. And, you know, you got to bear in mind that that's the homeland of Jesus. Jesus was born in Israel. He wasn't born in Kansas. And when he returns, it's not going to be to New York City or London or Paris. Jesus will return from where he launched, okay? He lit up from Israel, and that's where he's coming back. So it's an important place to understand. I want you to love Israel. I want you to go to Israel. Come with us to Israel when we go, or go with some other group, but go to Israel. Learn about the Scriptures in the land where Jesus lived. Fall in love with the God of Israel and the Bible that grew out from this land, from the Jewish people, for the most part, who wrote these words that have meant so much to anyone who names the name of Christ. There's secrets that are hidden in plain sight, and I want to expose some of those secrets about Israel. We're going to do that right here, right now, with my brother Wayne Hilsden, pastor of King of Kings Community in Jerusalem.
Great to be with you, Randy.
I'm so glad that you're with us, and your more than 30 years of experience in the land gives you the right to have not just an opinion, but a considered opinion, and an opinion that should be valued and respected. You've seen what has taken place, and your observation will help us understand what's real, because so many people have a wrong view. They only hear things on the news, and what's on the news is not necessarily what's really taking place. It's what someone wants you to think is important. One of the things that, again, it's a secret, people see the religious Jews, the ultra-Orthodox Jews on the news. They see the payases, the side curls. They see the black hats, the black coats. They think that this is what Judaism looks like. In reality, there's probably not, if you put all the ultra-Orthodox Jews of the world together, what do you think that number would be?
In Israel, ultra-Orthodoxy is growing. It's mostly because of high fertility rates, 6 to 10 children per family now. They outnumber everyone else in the school system. And as they get older, they're going to have a greater measure of influence and power in the city of Jerusalem, at least. And we also see that the secular are leaving Jerusalem, going to Tel Aviv and other places, mostly for economic reasons, because Jerusalem is a very poor city, and the types of jobs that are available are less attractive.
Again, from the standpoint of exposing a secret. This is not a good secret, it's a bad secret, but I think that our audience should realize that immorality among Jews, biblical norms among secular Jews in particular in Israel, they have the same kind of problems in Israel that secular people in America have. Homosexuality, abortion, what according to biblical norms would be considered bad behavior is not only accepted and tolerated, in some ways it's celebrated. Is that?
It is. And Tel Aviv would be the mecca for this kind of hedonism, materialism, and so on. So it's a big problem, and it's a big challenge to society. We're seeing the breakdown of families. We're seeing a lot of confusion, gender confusion. We're seeing high numbers of abortion that would rival most Western countries as well. And the government paying for those abortions, especially among soldiers in the Army.
What if I told you that for the cost of a couple of cups of coffee, you can present the gospel message to hundreds of people across the island of Cuba? That type of impact is hard to find anywhere in the world. But that's exactly what's possible with the Today with God project. You see, every flash drive that we bring down gets given to a pastor who will then use it across the island in door-to-door evangelism, in roadside evangelism, in church ministry, in Sunday school, in seminary. One flash drive. It's incredible what God can do. By skipping a cup of coffee just a couple of times a month, you can provide one flash drive that will get used across the island with hundreds of Cubans, where the gospel message is presented. All it takes is $10. Give us a call at 1-800-688-3422 or visit us online at crosstalk.org.
There's conflicts in the land of Israel, but there's more than, there's also peace in the land of Israel. There's joy in the land of Israel.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, Prince of Peace has already come, and he lives in each one of us, and the Messianic body in Israel seeks peace. I'm delighted to tell you that Messianic Jews and Arab believers, Christians, get together on a regular basis. In fact, pastors and leaders like myself gather twice a year in a quiet place for 2 days and just seek the face of God. Jewish, Palestinian, Arab, a couple of internationals like myself, and God moves, and we come into a place of love and unity in that context as we're focused on Him. There's even a citywide worship gathering about every 3 months in Jerusalem where you have a worship team made up of Arab and Jewish believers. And once again, a powerful demonstration of the peace that comes through the Prince of Peace.
You see, the world says there'll never be peace between Jews and Arabs, between Israelis and Palestinians. That there can never be peace because they hate each other and they can't get along and there's no possible way. But that's not really true, is it?
Well, to have true peace, you have to come into a relationship with Jesus. That's a fact. And so attempting to bring peace through peace treaties and negotiations, I don't have a lot of hope in that, to be honest. But when there's a heart change, then you can have a cultural change, then you can have a societal change, then you can have true peace that doesn't require nuclear arms or arms of any kind. The trust is built, and ultimately when Jesus returns again, we're going to have that peace. There's going to be security, there's going to be prosperity, there's going to be blessing, and the lion will lie down with the lamb. So that's our great hope.
But you've seen during the last 30 years a pretty dramatic change, because at that time when you first began in ministry in Israel, there were very few Jewish believers, and the Christians in the land were typically not worshiping as they worship today.
Right. Well, the Christians in the land, Christian Arabs for the most part, are divided into two groups, really. You've got what we call born-again Christians. They've got a personal experience. They've encountered Jesus, bowed their knee to Him. And then you have cultural Christians or nominal Christians. They can claim that their parents or their grandparents or their great-great-parents have, were Christians. And so they grow up believing that they're Christians. It's almost a racial identity. It's not a race, of course, but it's so wrapped up with their identity as Arabs and Arab Christians that we get confused when we hear about Arab Christians. Are we really talking about people that have a present experience with Jesus, or is this just history and culture?
Another secret hidden in plain sight. When you first arrived in Israel, the phenomenon known as Palestinians was a very different understanding. Would that be a fair statement?
Absolutely. In fact, what's interesting is that the Jerusalem Post was once called the Palestine Post, okay? Leading up to the establishment of the State of Israel, anyone who lived in that region were called Palestinians, and that included Jews.
Absolutely. In the passports of Jews, they were Palestinians.
Exactly. Of course, that goes way back to after Jesus, where the Romans began to call that land Palestinia. They didn't want to call it Israel or Judea or Samaria, those traditional biblical names. So they wanted to actually erase history.
And the name originally was kind of a derogatory term in that it was referencing the Philistines.
It was, yeah.
The ancient enemies of Israel.
Exactly. But of course, Palestinians, especially the more radical Palestinians, also want to say and have made declarations that there was no historical Jewish presence in the land. Even in Israel, there was no temple. I mean, Yasser Arafat made that claim before he died. So there is this narrative that has no biblical basis, no historical basis that's being told. And the more times you tell a lie, the more times people begin to believe it. And that's the reality of today.
And 30 years ago, when you began in ministry there, no Israeli Arab in their right mind would have ever said that historically Israel was not a Jewish land.
Right.
That's a very recent lie, but the secret that is hidden in plain view is that it's always been a Jewish land.
Even on the day of Pentecost, it says clearly in Acts chapter 2 that there were Jews from every nation under heaven in Jerusalem for that celebration. There were Jews in Jerusalem. Jesus was on the Temple Mount. I mean, if you believe the New Testament, you can't say there was no Jewish history or presence.
And there's been discoveries in the land of Israel validating without any question not just the Jewish presence, but the absolute certainty of just how Jewish this land was, and every reason, therefore, to understand why it is and will always be a Jewish land.
There have been a number of recent archaeological finds that are quite significant. One is a discovery of David's home, or his palace, I should say. And we're finding various seals and inscriptions that clearly point to a dominant Jewish presence in the time of Jesus. And prior, of course.
Another change during the decades you've been in Israel is the ferociousness of the lies being just spread so far and wide. And as you said, if you tell a lie often enough, people start to believe it. Today, people are believing things that are so far from reality. What's happening? How can that be?
I frankly think that the author of lies, the Bible tells us that Satan is the accuser and he's the liar. He's behind this, and his demonic hordes are helping him cast that lie abroad. And it's easier to spread those lies today. We have instant communication, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or whatever, and social media. And a lot of people aren't actually listening to reliable news sources. They're listening to rumors. And we're seeing a prevalence of disinformation.
Mentioning Facebook and social media, I asked some of my Facebook friends for questions they might like me to ask you. And one of my Facebook friends, Mike, he asks, how can we encourage the Jewish believers in the land and support them until that last day, whether it's the Messiah's return or they have run the race as Paul describes it? And he wants to know, what can we do for them?
First and foremost, it's prayer. God is the answer to all of our challenges in the land of Israel, and we need prayer from the saints all over the world. It would be great to be able to connect Mike and other Christians from around the world to congregations and ministries in the land so they get to know firsthand what the needs are, and then develop partnerships with people who have a genuine love for Israel. And we're seeing that happen more and more.
What if I told you that for the cost of a couple of cups of coffee, you can present the gospel message to hundreds of people across the island of Cuba? That type of impact is hard to find anywhere in the world. But that's exactly what's possible with the Today with God project. You see, every flash drive that we bring down gets given to a pastor who will then use it across the island in door-to-door evangelism, in roadside evangelism, in church ministry, in Sunday school, in seminary. One flash drive. It's incredible what God can do. By skipping a cup of coffee just a couple of times a month, you can provide one flash drive that will get used across the island with hundreds of Cubans, where the gospel message is presented. All it takes is $10. Give us a call at 1-800-688-3422 or visit us online at crosstalk.org.
Welcome back to CrossTalk. We're talking about secrets of Israel hidden in plain sight. And Pastor Wayne Hillsden is exposing some of these secrets. So I think one of the realities that people don't understand, there's misinformation. A lot of people believe that Jews and Christians can't get along. In reality, I think that one of the greatest friends that Israel has would be the evangelical church. What's the scoop?
Well, first of all, evangelicals believe what the Bible says. And the Bible says that God chose the people of Israel, the Jews. He has called them His treasured possession. They are the apple of His eye. He has ordained them to be a light to all the nations of the earth. Jewish people have an important place in God's sovereign plan. Therefore, an evangelical, if they're faithful to the Word of God, are going to love whom God loves. God loves the Jewish people. So I believe that the evangelicals are probably Israel's most faithful friend, because it's rooted in the Scriptures that they love and know. And so I see an increasing relationship and friendship between evangelical Christians and the nation of Israel and Jewish people. There are a lot of cooperative efforts together. Now there are common forces, enemy forces coming against both the church and the nation of Israel. And so we need to stand together even because of the onslaught of the works of the enemy against us. And there are forces out there that want to destroy the people of faith, whether they be Jews or Christians.
The media, the press, people convey to the world that Israel is a repressive society, that Jews control everything, Palestinians, the underdogs. It's an unfair existence. While you've been in Israel, I believe you've seen changes that can show that Israeli Arabs have really not just freedom and ability to be upwardly mobile, but even influence in the government.
The government's made up of Jews and Arabs and Druze, which is a sect within Islam. It's one of the most democratic nations on the planet. Some would say it's over-democratic. Typically 15 to 20 parties represented, having seats in the Knesset. And there's plenty of infighting and yelling and screaming in the Knesset. Everyone's given an opportunity to state their views. There isn't repression when it comes to the way the government operates at all. And when it comes to health care and other benefits, everyone in Israel, whether you're a Jew or an Arab, receive those benefits. It's really a remarkable egalitarian society in comparison to the Arab world that we see, where there's great dichotomy between various classes of people within their societies. And if you go even to Palestinian territories, you'll see some pretty beautiful homes on hilltops, and again, you'll see poor people, but you'll also see incredibly rich people. And so sometimes it's a double standard, calling for Israel to be more fair to their people, but within the Palestinian Authority, seeing incredibly poor people and incredibly wealthy people in their own society.
And that's not for a lack of money. It's for the preponderance of corruption within the Palestinian sector. There's a lot of money poured into the West Bank and Gaza, but it's not getting to the people. They've got a pretty good old boy network there that keeps the money where they want it, and that's not necessarily in the interests of the people.
And they see that themselves. And many Palestinians, if they have a choice, would like to get an Israeli passport and live under Israeli sovereignty. And it's been proven time and time again in surveys, scientific surveys, that the majority of Arabs who live within Israel proper want to stay under Israeli sovereignty if there is a Palestinian state. So, you'd have to be blind not to see that Israel is actually preferable to other states that surround Israel that actually have a high degree of oppression and corruption and poverty.
Check out the all-new IBN television. Follow the move by tuning in as we partner with ministries like Greg Laurie and Harvest America, serving our audience 24 hours a day. IBN broadcasts on 52 television stations around the country and on popular streaming apps like Roku, Apple TV, Android, and many others, with one purpose: to share the move of our living God with the dying world on a daily basis. IBN Television.
In the Arab nations where Islam is the dominant belief system, there's a lot of repression. And half the population is automatically mistreated because they're women, and women are not given the same place as men. In Israel, women are not only equal, they're excelling in military, in business, in politics.
Absolutely. If you look at Syria today in the civil war, and you see how many refugees, millions now of refugees, far greater than any of the numbers of refugees from the 1948 war, the War of Independence. So, again, a lot of hypocrisy and double standards, and Israel pointed out as the evil nation, the scab on, the sore of the Middle East. These were one of these secrets that, unfortunately, the rest of the world have not had a chance to hear about.
The world wants to call it an apartheid state, but the secret that must be exposed is if there's apartheid, it's in the Islamic world, not in Israel. And as you said, given the choice, Palestinians would much rather live under the freedom that Israel offers Israeli Arabs as compared to West Bank or Gaza. Another secret is that there's an effort by many groups around the world to boycott Israel. The boycott of Israeli goods hurts Palestinians.
Absolutely. In fact, almost every attempt to squeeze Israel and to get it to follow the demands of the world have ultimately hurt the Palestinians themselves.
I think that's just an incredibly important point. And I hope that you're getting the picture that Israel is really good for the Palestinians if given a free market solution to the problems, if the world wouldn't be trying to tell Israel what to do, and the Arab nations wouldn't be trying to tell the Palestinians how they want the solution to come about, practical solutions could be resolved. The most important secret topic, issue that we have failed to cover is that of Christ at the checkpoint. And you may not even be aware of it. So it's important that you join us for our next episode. It'll be the last in this series. Pastor Wayne has been directly involved in what is known as Christ at the checkpoint, and this secret needs to be exposed. Please join us again next time. Till then, shalom and God bless.